Hello, hello. Well, I love doing this and showing up with all of you because I never know what's going to come out of my mouth right here. Now, that's a bit odd sounding, I'm sure, but the workbook for students gives a framework, quite naturally, one idea, one lesson at a time. Yet showing up to discuss it is always somewhat of a mystery because there are so many words that each of us could use, myself included, right? Anyone can use to talk about an idea, or it can be very few indeed. And it's fun because I never know which that's going to be. So the lesson that we're talking about today is lesson 235 in the workbook for students. God in his mercy wills that I be saved. God in his mercy wills that I be saved. Yes, that's the simple version of it. Yes. And let's say some more, shall we? Yeah, because some things that are presented in A Course in Miracles are so fundamental to us that they sound so obvious that we actually have a hard time accepting them. It's not being able to see our own face, so to speak. It's so close that we have trouble recognizing it. All of spirituality is like that. Who we really are is who we really are. And as we run around looking for the answer to the question, who am I outside of ourselves, we get confused. Understandably, we reach a point where that's completely understandable that we would get confused running around in the world, because that's not where the answer to the question, who am I, what am I, is. It's not where the answer lies. We've simply been confused and mistaken about where we're looking for the answer. So we all in our spiritual journey reach that point. Now, it just appears, doesn't it? I mean, and I use the word appears deliberately here. It looks like that we're all achieving this at different times. Some people show up in this life and they have clearly done a lot of forgiveness work. Some people you might look at in the same breath and recognize instantly that they haven't. It's perfectly obvious to us. Yet linear time, along with space, along with bodies, all of that is in fact not real. It's an illusion, yet we believe in it. So it certainly appears real. I mean, good luck just telling somebody, yeah, you're not a body anyway, so it doesn't matter. Right? That's not the point. That's not how we reach people. How we reach people is reaching a point in our journey, reaching a spiritual maturity where we have decided for love instead of fear, where we've decided for God instead of the ego. And we've made that decision more than once and recommitted to that decision again and again. Clearly, you can see and experience the repetition in this workbook for yourself. It's completely by design. So yes, you've seen this before. You've seen the truth before as well, because it's what you are. In that context, let's take a look at lesson 235 here in the workbook. God in his mercy wills that I be saved, that you be saved, that each and every one of us be saved. No exceptions. The dictators of history be saved. The drug dealers of history be saved. The hardened criminals of history be saved. Your ex be saved. Yeah, no exceptions. This is but one example of many that we're encouraged to take a look at here in the course, because we all can recognize in ourselves a tendency to want to keep certain grudges to ourselves. We're okay extending forgiveness to 99.9% of the general population, but our ex, yeah, no, there's a special place in the seventh circle of hell for them. And we hope that they roast in it and bubble and crack. Yeah. We can get more savage than that, but that'll do. See what I'm saying? Right? We want to reserve certain forms of our fear, of our anger, our hatred. We want to just hang on to them, don't we? We want to just keep them because there's a certain attraction. Yeah, there's a certain something about them that we're deeply hesitant to let go. Why we've identified with it. So what happens when you identify with God, with love, with Jesus, with the Holy Spirit, with your guides, your spiritual guides, your teacher? What happens is it's a fundamental shift. You begin to look for answers to the question, who am I? What am I? And then down the line, what am I doing here? All of that. You begin to look for those answers where the answer lies, inside. And as I know you've discovered, because we all discover this on the path, we have to come back to this again and again and again. Why? Because the tendencies are habitual tendencies to identify with a separate sense of self, to want to keep little forms of hatred for ourselves and nourish them and just, water them like a festering plant. Yeah. We have to recognize that tendency in ourselves again and again and again, and bring it to the light. Bring illusions to the truth. This is what it means. We bring our darkness, all of it, to the light. Why do we do this? God wills that we be saved from it. When something appears to trouble you, try what the workbook suggests and say, God in his mercy wills that I be saved from this. Whatever it is. And there's always going to be something. While we're on the path, there will be an it coming up for forgiveness and release, coming up for you to bring it to the light, bring it to truth. This is one example of what the Course means by bringing illusions to the truth and not the other way around. Right? If you bring the truth to illusions, to continue with this analogy, you tend to reinforce the illusion. It's spiritualizing things in the world that aren't real. So rather than get caught up in that, because we've all been caught up in that to one degree or another, we bring the illusions to the truth. God in his mercy wills that we be saved from all the drama, from our own psychodrama. Remember the summary of A Course in Miracles: nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. That is from the introduction to the text. It's right up front. And yeah, you can sum it up just like that, can't you? Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. God in his mercy wills that you be saved. No, you may have in mind a picture of God being separate from you. Read the material that accompanies the idea for today. It's a reinforcement that that's not the case. It's a reinforcement that there is no separation of any kind. Anything that is not completely 100% universal, not 99.9, but 100. Anything that's not universal is not real. Nothing unreal exists. So, some powerful, heavy-duty stuff we're dealing with here in A Course in Miracles. And it's something that in this lifetime, a person needs to be ready to embrace. And you may go through this material. I know some of you have been through the workbook multiple times in this lifetime. Yeah. And I'm willing to bet that you have had a very fundamentally different experience each time, overall and lesson to lesson, day to day, because the fifth time that you practice a workbook idea may be completely different than the first. Why? Well, you're fundamentally different in time, in the world. You've shifted, you've changed. Of course, we know that eternity, God, love, is changeless. It's constant. And we're in the process here of awakening to that truth, to that reality. So it's something that a person really needs to be ready for, or they don't find and resonate with this material. Because it's cutting right to the chase. And let's face it, as human beings, we love sometimes to be utterly distracted and don't want to cut to the chase. We may tout that as a value, a personal value, as a cultural value, cutting right to the chase, cutting the drama, cutting the BS, right? Now, when it comes right down to it, how willing are we to really do that? Because when we are willing to do that, when we're willing to leave no stone unturned, so to speak, when we're willing to bring all of our illusions to the truth, big time, profound things happen, and you do show up differently. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I want to thank you for your curiosity, first of all, in even picking up A Course in Miracles, whether you do anything with it or not. Just the curiosity is enough of a spark. Now, as you get even more curious, and I hope that I may inspire some of that curiosity, because it's fun. I mean, really, it's really, really fun, and it is the reward that all of us want, the peace of God, deep down. I mean, it's not a hot, sexy relationship. It's not a beautiful, brand new Mercedes with all the bells and whistles. And those things are great, yeah, for sure, right? But that's not what we all deep down ultimately want. And I invite you and encourage you to think about that and to ask yourself, do I want only the peace of God? Doesn't mean you can't have all the other stuff like the hot, sexy girlfriend, boyfriend, partner, whatever. right? Mercedes, no problem, you know. But do you want the peace of God? Because God, in his mercy, in his love, yeah, same, wills that you recognize that you are just that. Thanks so much, guys, for joining me.